As we begin to reflect over the fetal alcohol syndrome children and their improvement, and I was using the analogy of the automobile assembly plant, this did not seem adequate to define what was happening in fetal alcohol syndrome children. In cerebral palsy children, that is medical director for 8 years for a marketing company for this product, that I would hear time and time again from parents. My child was in a big medical center with severe cerebral palsy. Year and a half, 2 on these micronutrients. They've dismissed them, said they can't find anything wrong. They made the wrong diagnosis to start with, that this doesn't happen in cerebral palsy. Or leukodystrophy, where there's a gene defect and the brain doesn't properly develop. Or in autistic children, where we heard many reports of benefit. Or in Down syndrome children, where children came out of special education and into regular classes. This did not seem enough to explain how adults with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's chorea, olivary nuclear degeneration, multiple sclerosis, and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, in other words, more commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease, it had benefits. This child has had the opportunity to have more benefit than any other human creature in that period of time in regard to the impact of nutrients on life. In the first picture, I have to tell you I don't remember when that happened, but the adopted mother tells me she called me and said, we're considering adopting a little girl that we call Sarah. And the medical school in Denver is discouraging us from adopting her. She was born premature, 2 pounds 15 ounces, to a cigarette chain smoking mother who abused drugs and seriously abused alcohol. One of the reasons they didn't recommend adopting her is that they, if you look at the picture, you will notice the nose is turned up, kind of a little bit of a porky look. She's flattened between the eyes. It's called saddle deformity, and her eyes are too far apart and her ears are too low at the back. She has a very thin upper lip. X-rays of her skull and everything that they could tell in the examination of her, as well as the hips, where she had a diagnosis of fetal alcohol syndrome due to maternal alcohol intake damage. In addition, they made the diagnosis of cerebral palsy. In addition, they made the diagnosis of sensory integrative defect, another brain damage. And because of the prematurity and all this toxicity, she had multiple heart deformities, not only septum but cushion defects, and they anticipated she would need multiple heart surgeries, and the likelihood of surviving those was poor. They tell me, they called me in Dallas, and I started saying, well, put in the formula. They said, well, she's being maintained on an IV through an umbilical vein in the ultra premature nursery, and we can't give her anything. And I said, well, do you hold her? Get to hold her? And they said, 30 minutes twice a day. And I said, well, the micronutrient products are in topical form. Little babies are very small, very thin skin. They can absorb things. When you hold her, rub her from the top of her head to between her toes with the glyconutrient formula and the one that has Diascorea extract. And they did this. I didn't know what happened for years, but the picture on the left is 4 years later. And when this was sent to me, she said at the medical school, the developmental pediatric specialists at the medical school are puzzled. They cannot find any evidence by x-ray or appearance of her fetal alcohol syndrome changes in her hips and her head. Her nose has come down, her eyes have come together. And furthermore, in fetal alcohol syndrome, they estimate the IQ at less than 80. And her IQ is considered to be around 120, college material. She has no evidence of cerebral palsy. they tell us, and her sensory integrative defect continues to improve. But in addition, with all these micronutrients added to her food over this period of time, her heart developed, they said, just like she was in her mother's uterus, and she will need no heart surgery. And this is one of the reasons. No one responds nor benefits more than children.